Laura Pidcock.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to thank the member for Oldham East and Saddleworth for securing this debate and pursuing this issue. I think this is probably going to be the last time I speak in this place on this issue before universal credit is rolled out in my constituency on the 13th of December, and that is really a daunting prospect, not just because I've made things up or I'm scaremongering, but because of everything that every advice and support agency in my constituency has told me about this system. I also want to refute some of the things that have been said on the other side. This is about people in work, so when you're talking about people getting into work quicker, we are talking about over 50% of people on universal credit are in work, so this is a problem for those people. And I will refute as well that this is not about austerity. The IFS said by 2022, 12 billion will come from the welfare budget, so if that is not about austerity, then I do not know what is. Before campaigning on an issue, Madam Deputy Speaker, you must be sure that you are doing it in the best interests of all your constituents, that it's something that is important to them, and I am absolutely convinced that universal credit is one of those issues. And it is right that we separate the delivery of this system from the design, because those in job centres could not be working any harder to prepare for this rollout. But the idea that job centre staff, when they get a visit from a member of the ruling party, are able to sit down and tell them in all its glory the difficulties and the problems that they are having, just completely ignores the power dynamics between that member of staff and somebody from this place. I will not. Colleagues from this side of the House, I will not give way. If you are not acknowledging that there are power dynamics that exist.
The Honourable Lady mustn't say you. And I advise everyone else who has a speech written out to look through it and score out the yous. Laura Pidcock.
Members on the other side will not acknowledge that power dynamics prevent sometimes the truth being heard.
I thank the Honourable Lady for giving way, but is it not partly the fact that we're hearing from honourable members talking about meeting DWP staff and then saying they don't have full rollout? Come back and talk in this chamber when they do.
I'm not going to give way, so members opposite should save their energy. Colleagues from this side of the House have conveyed their deep unrest with this system, not to score political points, but to try and get the government to see, what we see. That actually people in work and out of work enduring an ill-thought-out experiment, essentially. It's an experiment based on deeply flawed assumptions about what causes worklessness or what creates low pay. It's based on a deeply flawed model of what traps people in a cycle of debt and financial crisis, and it's a deeply flawed ideology that labels workers and people unable to work with the worst of motivations rather than the best. Created by people, if I'm honest, by people who know little or nothing about poverty and what it means to struggle in that poverty. But leaving the ideological differences aside, Madam Deputy Speaker, the practical issues are enough to go on alone. We've listened in this place time and time again. We've had meetings with the Secretary of State. We've written letters, had evidence sessions. We've listened cumulatively to thousands and thousands of people, from claimants to advice agencies, about the chaos that this system brings. And we've witnessed the fear that people are experiencing or anticipating. Let me just say what is still wrong with the system. The wait is still too long. The advance payments are still alone. The disability premium remains removed. Explicit consent is still a barrier. It still penalises people with fluctuating wages. There's still uncertainty. There's still uncertainty about claimants' entitlements to free school meals, prescription exemptions and healthy start vouchers. Private landlords are still wary about universal credit claimants as tenants, and housing associations are still anticipating arrears. So I wasn't cheering and whooping at the Chancellor's announcement. Yes, all of the things that we raised that were conceded on, originally there was no acknowledgement that there was a problem. And on behalf of my constituents, I would like to know this. Why, I repeat, why are are the members opposite rolling out this system in concert and in group job centres on the 13th of December. Who thought this was a sensible idea? Who on earth signed it off? I still don't have an answer to that. At a time where people take leave, quite rightly, where people will endure increased costs because of all the difficulties with the winter period, who signed that off? This side of the House, backed by some brilliant campaign groups, have won victories against this government. Concessions on the phone line charges, the increase in advance payments, entitlement and repayment schedule, as well as the removal of the 7-day waiting period. But let us be under no illusions at all. The government would not have conceded on any of those points were it not for the political pressure and the activism of those groups. And what we need more of, I believe, is we need more popular resistance to this government, a government that have repeatedly told us that everything's fine, until they concede on another wholly inappropriate part of the universal credit system. So to find out that the government has been withholding papers and the publishing of papers, reports potentially which give us a fact to support everything we know is already going on and have been saying, feels like a betrayal. And I want to see those papers, and I want the Select Committee to see those papers in time before it's rolled out in my constituency on the 13th of December. They're not going to have time to analyse that before this system is rolled out there. I don't think any of us could buy the argument that the content can be shared, can't be shared, whilst retaining the anonymity of people surveyed. Of course, these assessments can be published. Let us be really honest here. The government are embarrassed. A member said before that we were trying to embarrass the government. No, the government are embarrassed about this system, and they are hell-bent on continuing the rollout of this system, irrespective of the evidence. As I have already said, I am not giving way to members. I have heard enough of their contributions about my community. I have sat here for hours. I want to say my piece and then continue to listen to the rest of the debate. The Select Committee will not have time to analyse the evidence. The announcements that were given by the Chancellor will not take effect till next year, so this means nothing to people in North West Durham. Please pause the rollout in North West Durham. I beg this government.